Hello, welcome to Let's Talk. We got a few new topics for you here today. My name is Phil. I'm here with Mackenzie and the lovely Rachel.
Hello.
And we're going to start the show off with Rachel's topic, another period.
All right, so it's this show on Comedy Central starring Riki Lindholm and Natasha Leggero, and they are part of this just ridiculous family called the Bellacourts, and basically they are rich, selfish.
Blanche, you idiot! You got egg upon my snood!
Their lives are just spent with money, sex, drugs, some twincest if you're into that. It's just a huge craziness that goes around, and it's set in early 1900s. Yeah, and it's got a little bit of everything. It's got twincest, like I said, murder. Paget Brewster is in it for Criminal Minds fans, and it kind of makes fun of the Keeping Up with Kardashians show, so it kind of has that reality TV-esque kind of feel to it. And it also has historical people such as like Harriet Tubman, the Roosevelts, Harry Houdini was in one of the latest ones. So it's got a good historical context as well.
So is there like one thing that they kind of base it off of, that there's like an underlying theme, like, I don't know?
It just kind of shows how like the 1%, or how they think the 1% would live in that time, just because they're just abusing their money, abusing their servants. They don't even treat them as like real people. They literally were calling them serve ants. So it's just, yeah, it's bad, but it's ridiculous and quite amusing, actually.
What is your favorite character?
That would probably be Beatrice, who's played by Riki Lindholm. She plays this spacey, dumb blonde who like has sex with her twin brother, whose name is Frederick, and she's just presented as just this dumb bimbo, and in reality she's actually not, because when Albert Einstein was in one of the episodes, she actually solved one of his equations that was on the board. She knows law, she knows all of these things, but she never actually utilizes them because in that time women were not seen as citizens in that case, and so they didn't have many rights, which is one of the other characters fights for, which they also ridicule at the same time. So, yeah.
So how long has the show been running? I feel like I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, I actually didn't hear about it until recently, and it's actually been going on for 3 years now, because it
Wow.
started in 2015. So it's on its 4th season now. I've been watching it online on Comedy Central, and I've gotten to the 3rd season and 2nd episode, and they don't have any more, which is really depressing because I've been binge watching it for 24 hours each time, because that's how long the free trial lasts.
Yeah, and you've used my laptop and my email addresses.
I have
in
not
order to
used your
get
email
more
addresses
free
yet.
access. You haven't yet?
Yet.
Oh.
Hey, I mean, have you heard of the like 10-minute mail? It's like 10-minute emails that last 10 minutes, which is like just long enough for you to get like free trials and stuff.
I really should utilize that. I've never actually heard about
it's great.
that.
I don't know where I heard about it, but I heard about it forever ago. And it was just kind of a great thing to like set up and get like the free trials of like online stuff.
You
And
never have to pay for any service again.
That would be wonderful, honestly.
But like I think you can only get a certain amount within like a time period. But I think it's just, like if you try and get too many within an hour, it's just like no. But you know, it's whatever. But what's your favorite episode so far of the show?
Oh goodness. Let me think. I think one of the more recent ones, where Beatrice, she is sent to a nunnery by her twin brother, and
The one she's having sex with.
yes.
Yes,
Although
okay.
now they're coitus colleagues, I believe is what the word was.
Coitus colleagues.
Yes. And because he's married and now like vice president and like all these crazy things, but he sent her away, and that's where she found her mother, who is played by Paget Brewster, and she converts and she tries to like forgive all her sins of murder, drinking, smoking. There was one time she like was shooting drugs into her eye. She's had some crazy stuff, but like all of these things, she repented and was forgiven, and she was trying to do the same for her sister, Lillian, to no avail. But they decided to basically just break all of the bottles of booze in this bar, and they actually, like the news portrayed them as feminists, like fighting for their rights kind of thing, when in reality they're not even close to that.
Every time you keep talking about like the twins and like them having sex and everything, I just keep thinking of like Jaime Lannister and Cersei, and I'm just like, I want to watch this show now, even though I know it has nothing to do with like Game of Thrones. I want to watch it, but I don't have like the time
Some
to
Game
at
of
the
Thrones.
moment.
They're blonde twins?
No,
blonde?
she's
Oh.
blonde. He is brunette.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
it's very strange in their
Gotcha.
actor portrayals, but that's okay.
So it's not quite the Lannisters.
Not quite, no.
Dang. Okay.
It's close enough with like, you know,
The twin incest.
incest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Every good show, you know, a little bit of twincest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why Game of Thrones is so popular, actually.
Just so much incest going on.
Yeah, yeah. That's people love it.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the fan fictions.
Oh gosh, the fan fictions.
I don't want to.
You never really want to think about the fan fictions, but you know they're out there.
Oh yeah, it's
Like,
depressing. I've read a few for like other movies and shows, and they were just awful. My sister would write one time, and thankfully there wasn't anything overtly sexual in it, but it was a love story between Hermione and Draco, which
Oh.
was
that's a big thing.
it is a big thing, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like sometimes I see these posts and I'm like, okay, that's actually really cute, and then there's like others, and I'm just like, I don't like this pairing whatsoever.
Yeah, I guess it just depends, but like, I actually saw a pretty interesting like thing about fan fictions, is like comparing it to like different novels that actual authors have written and everything. Like, they're writing like full-length books online. I'm like,
Actually, the
How do you
the
have that much
longest
dedication?
work of literature in the English language is actually a fan fiction. It's actually a Super Smash Brothers fan fiction
oh, I heard about
about
that.
Lucario. It is the longest work of fiction in the English language.
Is it still getting like updated? or
It's
is
still
it, like,
being written to this day.
How do you have that much dedication? Like, even just me trying to like write normally, I'm just like, I can write for like 10 minutes and then I'll leave it for like 6
I
years.
have no idea. It's been going on for since Smash Brothers Brawl came out. I don't know when that was, but it was a long time ago.
No idea. That
But-
seems like forever.
Since we're just talking about Harry Potter, Kinsey,
All
what are you
right.
bringing to the table?
This is fun because people love to debate this topic, but Severus Snape is not a good guy. I mean, I don't classify him as like a super bad guy like Voldemort or anything, but he's not a good guy. I categorize him as more of a bad guy because he did some messed up stuff. And actually,
Such
like,
as?
I have a nice list written down. You know what? Trying to think of
It's
this, I was
too
like,
long.
let's go.
There's too many.
Well, first of all, he just had an obsession with Lily. It wasn't any like, sure he may have loved her and people like say that, but it was an obsession.
Who's Lily?
Lily
Oh,
is
buddy.
Harry's. You don't know Harry Potter. I feel so bad.
I
I know
don't
he has
like
a
Harry
pathetic
Potter.
life.
Lily is Harry's mom, and they were in like the same year when they went to Hogwarts and everything, and one of the theories that I found kind of like help tie this together, but it's like actually something you can really see, is Lily's Patronus is a doe, and James, Harry's dad, is a stag, so they like complement each other. Whereas Snape's is a doe, so he's like obsession, don't want to,
gotcha.
whatever. Also, he bullied all of the children mercilessly except for the ones in his house. And he also became a Death Eater because
What is a Death Eater?
a Death Eater are Voldemort's followers.
Okay.
I am with you. I'm just like, they're
This-
Voldemort's followers.
this is
They're
what I'm
just like
dating.
terrible people. They're mostly terrible people. But James Potter, when Lily went up to him and I believe this was in one of the books, but I can't remember which one. I think it was a flashback. Lily just wanted nothing to do with James because he was a bully in school because he thought he was super cool and whatnot. And so when Lily told James that she didn't like him being a bully and whatnot, he tried to stop. He didn't completely stop. But, he dialed it back a lot.
Well, that's nice.
Whereas
It was only to get the girl, though.
yeah, when Snape called Lily a mudblood, which is very much not a nice word in the Harry Potter universe.
It's kind of like the N-word.
Yeah,
almost.
it is. It kind of is. And when Lily said that she didn't like that and she didn't like him hanging out with the Death Eaters at the time, he went on to become one still. He didn't care.
Funny.
Yeah.
And I mean, when Lily and James died, he stepped over James's body and went and cradled Lily and ignored Harry, who was a
crying
1-year-old
child.
in a crib, crying his eyes out. I don't like him, and I don't like when people try and make him out to be a good guy.
Okay, so what killed James?
So
We're just gonna explain everything here.
we're just gonna explain everything.
Because I don't know anything.
Harry Potter's been out for a while. So
Yeah, if you're worried about spoilers for Harry Potter,
you're a little late.
seriously, what's wrong with you? It's oh, Darth Vader's Luke's father. I had no idea. Oh my God.
Well, Snape overheard Professor, I can't remember, Trelawney? Is that how you pronounce it?
Trelawney.
Yeah, Trelawney, who was interviewing with Dumbledore at the time to become become a professor. She had a vision because she is a seer, and said a child born on the 31st of July basically was going to bring the downfall of Voldemort. Snape overheard that, didn't hear the entirety of it, took it to Voldemort, and there were 2 children born around that time to pretty powerful parents. One was James, and one was Harry, and the other one was Neville, who was one of Harry's classmates and who was kind of portrayed as the very dumb, kind of really awkward kid. And
He was more specialized because he was
Yes.
really good at herbology.
he did in the beginning books it was more and then he became really cool later on.
Well, the other part of that too is he had his father's wand. He didn't have his own.
He didn't have his own wand until what was it? The 5th book, 6th book?
I think 5th.
I think
honestly.
it was 5th book, yeah. And so Snape took what he had heard to Voldemort and told him hey, here's what's going on. And so Voldemort decided to go after James and Lily because they kind of refused to go after him or to be part of his Death Eater cult and whatnot.
They're also in hiding from all of that.
Yeah,
they just
so they're in
refused the
hiding.
cult. How dare
And
they?
when Snape heard that Voldemort was going after James and Lily, he begged Dumbledore to save Lily. Just her, not Harry, and not James and whatnot. So then Voldemort gets their location from Peter, who's called Wormtail, who was one of James's best friends in school, who they entrusted to keep their place a secret and keep them hidden. But he told Voldemort, and Voldemort came and killed them, tried to kill Harry, but
What a shitty dude.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's the main villain of the books, so
All right.
That's,
Hot dang.
that's the thing about him, though, is that he's, everyone says that Umbridge is, the worst evil because it's one that hits close to home. But
Yeah.
in reality, I think Snape could definitely fit that persona as well because he's a constant bully.
Mm-hmm.
He picks favorites in the classroom. It is obviously one of the worst teachers to have. And that one is under the protection of the principal or headmaster in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sad thing is, there's nothing that can be done in that case because
he was
backed up.
reformed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's like a professor with tenure that really shouldn't be
Exactly.
teaching anymore,
Exactly,
but
yeah,
is
no.
still here for some reason.
Whereas with Umbridge, it's okay, she's a human being, she needs to leave, and that's what happened at the end of the year.
and I think why people don't feel like Snape, feel like Snape is kind of like Umbridge in that way, is because he had that one redeeming moment.
Yeah.
Which
But other than that-
was-
Simultaneous.
Come on, guys.
Oh gosh, which part was it?
Oh goodness. So the redeeming moment for him was that he actually went to Dumbledore to save Lily, and he kind of compromised in a sense to protect James and Harry as well. And so he was okay with that. And then after they died, he took it upon him to protect Harry as well under Dumbledore's orders in that sense. And he did that, but only because Harry has Lily's eyes, but he still bullied him because he looked like James. So it was almost like a revenge scenario in that, but he was also trying to protect him at the same time.
He's like, I'm going to protect you, but also I hate you because you're your father's son, and your father was terrible to me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like that's the other thing too, is like James is not as great a guy as everyone thinks he is either.
No, he is not, but like he did try to change. He did.
Yeah.
He helped out Lupin in a big way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like he helped out his friends, but he still was a bully.
Yeah, he was very arrogant because I mean his dad was rich. He was rich. He's not going to be arrogant when you have all this money and fame below you.
Yeah, but that's the thing about Snape is he has his ups and downs, and that's the nice thing about a well-rounded character. But I mean, even then, he's still not the greatest guy.
No,
That's the problem.
Okay, now, I heard there's a character that you think deserves love, like a lot of love, more than they get.
I feel like there's actually a lot, because I looked up a list, because I was like trying to decide. I was like, okay, how do I choose? But a lot of people think Molly Weasley does not get enough love, and that's Ron's. I'm going to explain for a second, and Ron is Harry's best friend.
Yes, I know that.
And all that, and that's his mom.
Okay.
And, like, when they were getting on the train, Harry had no idea where he was going. Hagrid didn't explain to him how to get onto platform 9 3/4 and whatnot. And because Harry is actually pretty unobservant, a lot of people believe that Molly, like, went around him, like, a bunch of times before he finally heard her being like, oh, where's this platform? Even though she had, like, 5 other children go to Hogwarts before. But she really saw this, like, skinny little boy standing there looking very, very lost with an owl. So, you know, like, and asking around for platform 9 3/4. So she's like, okay, gonna help him get on. So he gets on and then gets on the train and everything. And Fred and George had helped him get his, like, luggage on. And they go out and tell their mom, Harry Potter's on the train. And she's like, her first thought is, oh, poor dear, no wonder he was all alone, and leave him alone.
Oh.
Don't, like, get all in his face and whatnot.
Don't be a
Yeah, don't be a like,
rule number 1.
yeah. And then every summer after that, Harry goes over to the Weasley house, at least, like, for a good majority of the summer, or, like, somewhere with the Weasleys, because in the 5th book, they ended up at Sirius's house because of, like, the Order of the Phoenix and whatnot.
Who's
Sirius is Harry's godfather, who is also one of James's best friends, who was framed for the murder of them.
I've heard the
It's
name.
sad.
I just
And
had
quite
no
a few
idea
other-
who.
And quite a few other murders.
People,
in
yeah.
that. But, you know, he actually didn't commit any of them, but, yeah, no, she looked after him, and, like, in the 2nd book, Fred, George, and Ron stole their dad's car that he enchanted to fly and went and saved Harry from the Dursley household because he was locked in his room with bars on his windows
Oh.
because of
he's
being
in
magic
prison,
and
basically.
everything. And so they broke him out, and they get back, and she's just, like, freaking out on her sons and turns to Harry in between all this and goes, oh, you're fine, dear. Like, go up and go get some sleep, or, like, do you need some food and whatnot? And then during the Battle of Hogwarts in the last book, my favorite line she ever said is when Ginny, her daughter, was fighting Bellatrix, and Molly notices this. She pushes Ginny out of the way and goes, not my daughter, you
She's like
This
the
is the
ultimate.
I
Best
thought Harry
line
Potter
ever.
was for kids.
That's, like, the best line ever, and it was just really great. It's like, yes. But she's just so loving, and, like, the family is not the richest. They have, like, 7 kids?
I don't even know.
I didn't even count.
There's
They
a
have,
lot.
like, there's Bill, Charlie, Percy, Fred, George, Ron,
Yeah.
and Ginny. So
So
7
7.
kids.
We
And
gotta
their
get
house is just basically, like, a bunch of different pieces put together.
Incredible.
Which is
Molly-
my puzzle, by the way.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
great.
yeah. Rachel has a
3D
a,
puzzle.
a 3D puzzle
Ooh,
in
of
her
the
house
burrow.
of the
And
The
like
house.
Yeah.
Molly doesn't really work that we know of. They've
She
never
does
really
do a
said
lot
anything.
of
She does a lot of housework. She's very good with like household spells and cooking and all that. And then Arthur works at the Ministry of Magic
For like Muggle
for
affairs.
Muggle affairs, because he loves like anything Muggle, because he's like the
Gotcha.
pureblood. So
Gotcha.
I think
So
like
like from what I understand, a Muggle is
Is
somebody with
non-magic,
non-magic.
so a normie.
yes.
Okay.
or a no-mage if you are into the Fantastic Beast world.
Yes.
I
'Cause
like
that's,
that better.
That's the American version.
That's the
of-
American
of
version.
it.
How it should be.
Yeah. And so like he doesn't get paid a lot of money, and so they're kind of like living off of a one source of income and whatnot. But she's just does her best to keep the house maintained and like keep everyone in line. And she just loves everyone. Sure, like she didn't really like Sirius all that much, but she also didn't
be
hate
fair.
him. He's kind of he was friends with James. He was kind of stuck up too.
Well, that and plus like even they believed that he was
Yeah,
a criminal.
She
so, I
still
mean,
pretty much believed he was a criminal, but she still was like, okay, whatever. And I remember one of the things was when Tonks was going through like a rough time trying to get Remus to fall in love with her.
Yes.
She sat her down and like had some tea with her and talked with her. And she took as many kids under her wing as possible. And like in Harry's and Ron's first year, she sent Christmas gifts to Harry, even though she didn't like know him well. He was one of Ron's friends. So he's getting a Christmas gift.
Oh.
It was
because,
great.
especially since like he has never really gotten gifts other than like
Coat hangers and
socks,
and
yeah,
Hey.
stuff like that.
Don't diss on socks.
It was like one sock.
It was one
one
sock.
Only
oversized
one?
sock.
Yeah,
I'm wearing mismatched socks right now, so that's not
Me
a problem
too.
for me.
same. Actually, no, they are matching this week. Never mind.
Yeah. Mine's
But no.
not because of like anything special. I'm just lazy.
Yeah.
I just picked whatever was there because I spent my time prettying up this face.
Pretty.
Yeah, no. Molly Weasley is just needs more love, and I feel like she gets a decent amount, but I feel like she just needs more
She
because
needs
she's awesome, and she did a lot through the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Without realizing.
Seems
she's
that
the
way.
ultimate mama bear
Yes.
because like what you're saying with the second one when they came back with the car and stuff.
It was
and
more of like fear of losing them.
exactly, and like fear of exposure and like getting hunted down basically is that fear.
And in the 5th book, when she was trying to deal with that Bogart upstairs,
Oh,
it
she
kept
was
coming up with like
A what?
a Bogart is like a shapeshifter that shifts into like your worst fears. Like Hermione, hers was failing, which people have come to take it as more of a fear of like not fitting in and like being kicked out of this world where she feels included. And
which she has to excel at, so she's
Yeah.
like afraid of being
yeah.
let down, like letting people down and things
so
like that.
Molly's, anytime she tried to get rid of it by, it kept turning into like dead family members. Like it was like everyone
dead
she
children
loved
and-
dead. And that was probably like the most like hard-hitting thing. It was like, holy cow.
Mine would turn into a flying spider, by the way. That would be the absolute worst thing. I would pee my pants, throw up, pass out, wake up, drink, run away if I saw a flying spider coming at me.
That was actually
terrible.
That's Ron's is a
It's
spiders
spider.
in
He
general.
hates spiders.
But does it
Yeah.
fly?
No, he's just terrified.
He's
of
just terrified of
spiders.
spiders
Me too.
because Fred and George, when they were 5,
Yeah, they were young.
they were young. They turned his teddy bear into a spider, which very awesome magic for their age.
Rude.
yeah.
Yeah, they're pranksters, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I would have killed them both with
The-
magic.
Going back to the
Oh.
Bogart though, the other thing about Molly in that sense was that, like, I read a post about this and it was like heartbreaking, but when the Bogart was turning into the different family members, it turned into both Fred and George at the same time.
Yeah.
Which was really depressing because she could never see them being without each other, and that's exactly what happened. Is one died at
Yeah, that was, like-
the very end of the series.
Spoiler. Oh my god.
Like
It's
you're
been
gonna read
years.
them.
Chill out.
I don't care.
Yeah, no, that's probably like the saddest. I read that post too. I was like,
Yeah, it was
she
depressing.
can't imagine her kids not being together.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't know. She's just good.
She's just a great character.
Speaking of being freaking terrified of things, let me tell you about what happened to me last night when I was trying to go to bed. So it was like 3 in the morning, usually when I go to bed. Usually, yeah. Wake up at 7, get a solid 4 hours. That is my peak performance amount of sleep. And I was falling asleep, like normal, and then like I sort of dream for like a second, and it's like this forest or whatever, and then I just see this like black figure off in the distance, and that like snaps me awake because I'm like, nightmare, not today. But then I'm like awake, and turns out I wasn't actually awake. I was in sleep paralysis, which was even more terrifying because sleep paralysis, I did some research. It's actually not considered a nightmare. It's considered a hallucination whenever terrifying things happen. And I was getting a lot of auditory, visual hallucinations. At one point I heard the front door open and close, and that scared the crap out of me. I heard this like creepy singing in my ear. Everything started going dark. I saw like a black figure. And then I woke up and was sweating and breathing heavily, and that was terrifying. But sleep paralysis, it's not as common as people think, even though most people say that they've had some kind of experience with it. When they actually, they did a study and they took like 8,000 people, and only 6.2% of those 8,000 people had actually experienced true sleep paralysis. Have you guys ever had this?
No.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I've told you about this actually.
Oh.
So it was probably around freshman year of high school, around there. I was getting these really vivid, horrendous dreams of me being tortured, and just violent dreams. I'll just leave it at that because it's harsh stuff. And basically what would happen was I would force myself to wake up and I'm gasping, but I would still be thrashing around with no control of my body. So I was literally just flailing in my bed and I couldn't do anything about it. So it's kind of in that sense, but the other problem was even after I had woken up, I could still feel where things had happened. So for example, for some of those, there were knives involved, and I could still feel them cutting on my body, and so that kind of stuff. So it's I wouldn't say traumatic, but it's definitely borderline.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But if anybody at home deals with sleep paralysis, it can be a very terrifying thing, especially if you start hallucinating. And I researched some of the causes and ways to prevent sleep paralysis. And basically, the reason it happens is so your body basically thinks that you're going into REM sleep, but your brain doesn't, or some combination of that, to where you're asleep, but your brain is totally awake and aware, quote unquote, of its surroundings and what's going on, but it's still fighting to put itself to sleep, so it's inserting all kinds of different auditory and visual information, especially things you've had about your day, because that's what dreams are. They're just processing your day.
Oh, awkward then.
What?
Awkward then with my dreams.
Well, okay. So,
I feel like it's
a lot
some
of
dreams, not all of them.
And it's caused a lot of the time by drinking a lot of caffeine right before bed, which I'm very guilty. I'm very guilty of. I'm a total caffeine addict. But I also have insomnia, which is another reason why it might exist. People with sleep disorders like insomnia and narcolepsy, a lot of the time they have major issues with this. Most people can only count 1 or 2 times they've ever had actual sleep paralysis, but I've probably had it upwards of 10 times before that I can remember in my life. And I take medicine that helps me fall asleep, obviously, and that can also be a factor if you take any kind of medicine, or if you have an irregular sleep schedule, like me.
You're just checking
or
off all
if
these
you're
boxes.
stressed like me.
Stress,
Yeah.
anxiety can definitely be a huge
Yeah, anxiety
part
for
of
sure.
that.
But like it seems like it should be way more common than it actually is because of especially with our age, which college students, we're very stressed, regular sleep schedules, lots of caffeine. But some ways to sort of prevent that from happening is if you are drinking a lot of caffeine before bed, drink a lot of other liquids, like drink some milk and some water and just try and like flush that out of your system, or basically treat it like alcohol. Like drink some water, eat some bread, soak that up.
Well, I mean, caffeine is still a drug, so.
Yeah, it's just a less severe drug.
I wouldn't say that. It just works in a different way, and so that's why it's more approved for more ages and whatnot.
Definitely.
But I think another reason why it's not as common is it sounds very similar to a hypnagogic jerk or a hypnic jerk. That's the other term for it. And that's that feeling of falling when you're like falling asleep. And it's kind of like that because your brain is still kind of awake in that sense, but you're finally getting to that point. And then once you get to that falling point, you just kind of have that sudden twitch and you like jerk yourself awake. So I think that's usually what happens.
It's kind of like that, except you don't jerk yourself awake.
Exactly, and like, that's the thing, and that's why that's that little fail-safe almost.
One thing you can do if you do find yourself trapped in your own bed is to sort of calm down, breathe in, count to 10, and then just try and wiggle your finger. And if you can wiggle your finger, then you'll snap yourself out of it. And I think that's like the best, most hilarious solution to any problem is to just do this and you'll wake yourself up.
That is so funny. I've heard it as wiggling your toes first.
Oh, I
guess it just
depending
depends
on
what's easier for you.
Yeah, because like how I had to like almost treat myself out of mine was I would wiggle my toes, then move my ankles, and then so on and so forth until I felt like I got full control again.
Gotcha. Yeah. If you just pick one finger and like flex it, you know, like a big strong finger.
Okay then.
Then you should be able to get yourself out of it, and hopefully once you're awake, you won't be too scared. You might have your lovely girlfriend, Rachel. Well, not your girlfriend, my girlfriend, Rachel, there to comfort you. And
I was asleep when this happened. So.
I know, you didn't wake up. I still clung to you for dear life. But you can slip back into it after you wake up, which is unfortunate, but like, there's definite ways to tell if you're going to have sleep paralysis. Like, you'll have sort of a feeling of falling and then sort of nudging yourself awake, but also, I don't know if this is for everybody, but I hear like pounding in my ears right before it happens. So if I get that, I'm just like, whoa, not today, buddy. But if you're running on 4 hours like I am, you can't afford to lose that sleep. So I just had to put up with it.
And how many times has this happened to you?
Like 10 times. Yeah.
Okay,
I have a few very specific, terrifying memories, but
I feel like we should discuss those.
No, probably not.
Tell me, how does
I
this
don't
make
feel
you
like depressing all of you. Okay, psych major.
Oh, I mean, I've never had like sleep paralysis that I know of. I mean, it could have happened when I was like really little, but that's not the point. But like, if I ever have like terrifying dreams, I normally like wake up, even if I can't remember it. When I wake up in the morning, I just have terrible anxiety and just like, and like I'll have like a really upset stomach for most of the day. And then this one time, right before I went to I was supposed to work, and I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything. I want to go back to bed, but I couldn't. So I literally turned to Nathaniel. Actually, I crawled over him because he was on the edge of the bed.
Who's Nathaniel?
The producer of the show and my boyfriend.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And I
your
pushed him over.
And my roommate.
Yeah, he was awake. I didn't tell him what I was doing. I pushed him over and I just enough so I could curl up. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I don't want to talk about it right now." I was like, just hug me really tight and I'll be fine in like 10 minutes.
But for the sake of ending on a high note, I have a question for you two.
Okay.
This is my go-to icebreaker question.
Oh boy.
What is the weirdest thing you've touched?
The weirdest thing I've touched?
I remember talking about this at one point. And
I need
remember
a
what
different
I said,
answer from you this time.
But
weirdest thing you've touched.
I don't know. I feel like you should start while we think about it.
Yeah, give me a
Fine.
second, because
Okay.
I've touched a lot of weird things.
Especially
So-
since I have to have a different answer now.
Yeah. My answer is the one that I usually go with is, so I used to work taking apart like 60-year-old Ford tractors, right? They would come off in 3 pieces, and one of those pieces would be the engine. And they're diesel engines, and one of the grossest, weirdest things I've ever touched is 60-year-old diesel caked onto an engine, so it's sort of dried on the top. The bottom is still a liquid, and then there's this weird pudding consistency in the middle of it. And I used to get covered from head to toe in this shit. I had to bathe with that orange goop that has like little sand beads in it to scrub it all off. And like it's hard to describe without like
Can.
actually sticking your hand in it, but it's a little bit harder than pudding.
Ooh.
Like it's more solid, like you could pick up a chunk of it and it wouldn't like droop. But it's, if you sort of squished it, it would just squish like
So,
pudding.
Like a bread pudding? Is that what you're trying
No, not at all. What? Bread pudding is just bread.
Not always.
Okay, I think one of the weirdest things I've touched was, I don't know how to describe this either, like, because it's really weird, but it's like kind of jelly-like grease, which,
Like what kind of grease? Like
like,
I was talking about
like
engine
fry
grease.
grease.
Ew.
Ew.
Like,
Ooh.
Because I worked at Wendy's in high school, and we never really, like, on my shift, whenever I'd work, because I'd work from, like, 4 to 10, 10:30-ish every night, we'd never really, like, pull out the fryer and clean it, at least when I worked. And then we got this new manager in, who transferred from a different store. She was super nice and everything, but, like, she started having us pull it out more frequently to, like, clean behind it. And so whenever I was having, like, a really bad day, and she wanted that clean, I'd immediately volunteer, even though it was super disgusting because no one cleans behind there. And I'd take like a scraper and it'd go like, we'd pull it out far enough so it wouldn't be like super hot, and it'd go like crouch down behind the fire and it'd scrape the grease off. And it'd have a very like, you know those window stick-ons that are like jelly-like?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that, but a little bit more solid is what 90% of the stuff back there was. And so it felt so wrong to touch. But I'd do it because I didn't want to deal with people.
Well, yeah.
And that'd be the reason I'd like volunteer to do dishes some nights, because I didn't want to deal with people. But that's definitely like the grossest thing, because then you have like the grease residue all over your hands and on your clothes, and no amount of scrubbing can take it off. And it was just, it was gross.
That's
Yet I
bad.
still volunteered to clean it up anyway.
You're a brave soul.
Yeah.
Rachel,
All right, so I've
keep
got.
it PG.
Okay, going in order of touching them, I suppose. So my family used to breed labs, and the grossest thing was delivering the puppies, because the placenta and the fluids and stuff was just slimy, and it smelled, and it was just wrong.
Do you know how much of it there was?
A lot.
Roughly a placentimeter?
I hate you. You
Roughly? Roughly a placentimeter.
just leave.
Stop. Okay,
This
stop.
is my show!
I don't care. And then the second one would be probably a brain, I'd say.
Like a human brain?
Like a human brain, like the brainstem, I'd say, because you'd expect it to be harder than it is, but it's actually fairly squishy.
Why were you touching a brain?
Reasons. It's because my mom's a doctor, and she was able to obtain a 5-gallon bucket of human organs from a.
From Organ Co?
No, I think it was from St. Jude's Children's Hospital, actually.
Oh, that's more depressing.
I know, right? It was an adult brain.
Oh.
But she was bringing them to show my sister's anatomy class in her senior year. So that was 8th grade for me, I think, somewhere around there. And she wanted to make sure she could stomach it, because it reeked, and it's human organs, so kind of gross. And some of it was just like broken up in the bottom of it, so it was just kind of like human sludge. But the brain was still intact, which was really cool. And me being a psych major and kind of a sadistic fuck a little bit, but I was really intrigued about it, and so I joined her in investigating it in our driveway, and so I got to hold a human brain, and it was squishy.
What did it feel like? Describe the texture, the smell, the taste.
The smell was awful, and I was wearing gloves too, and I could not get it off of my hands. I don't know about taste, but that just sounds gross. I'm not a cannibal.
It's a valid question.
And
I didn't say you had to eat it. You just had to,
no.
No.
flick a little bit.
You're disgusting. I'd say it's very sponge-like in a sense. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's been, a while, so.
Gross.
Yeah.
We were supposed to end on a high note.
I mean, I can end on a high note. I can tell you.
Okay.
I'll just tell you the same story.
That's a high
No,
note.
like I told you, you didn't hear this, but when my baby sister, who's about 10 years younger than me, was about 3 or so, we were out in Oregon visiting my dad's side of the family. And so we were on the coast and everything. And the little sea anemones that pop up or whatever that you can poke and they'll close up?
Yeah.
Those were her favorite things to poke and touch because, she'd stick her finger in there and close up around and she'd be giggling and pull it out. And so we're wandering around the beach and my dad looks at us and he goes, and I can't remember what the exact name of it is called, but he asked us if we wanted to do this Oregon man test or whatever. I don't think that's the actual name, but it was really funny. And we're like, well, what's that? Because he just said the name. He's like, you stick your tongue in a sea anemone. And my Alyssa and she's 3 years younger than me, so she was about 10 at this time. Her and I were like, no way, Jose. That's gross, whatever. So Kirsten, the baby sister, was like, whatever, I'll do it. So she went to a sea anemone and stuck her tongue in it. Ew. And I'm like, why? Because that's really gross. But there was no adverse side effects. She just laughed and then continued to poke them with her fingers.
Ew.
But that was it was really funny at the time because my dad convinced her to do this. We're like, she's 3.
She was 3?
She was 3.
Oh.
I mean, it doesn't take a lot to convince a 3-year-old to do something, but at the same time, my mom, she was a little grossed out, but she found it really funny too. But yeah.
That is funny.
And gross.
And
yeah,
gross, but
and gross. What a
there
gross
could be
way to end our show.
There could be grosser things to end the show with.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap it up.
All right.
Thank you, Rachel, for coming on.
You're welcome.
Kenzie, pleasure as always.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you guys for watching. This has been Let's Talk with Philip. And tune in on Sunday when the podcast is uploaded. Like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube page, too.
Good job.
Thank you.
When you DM.
Hey, you just watched Let's Talk. If you liked what you saw, check out more videos here. If you want to check out more from KNWT, click up here. And if you want to subscribe, click here.